Hello, and welcome to the We Get to Do This podcast. My name is Kaylee.
And I'm Jacob.
And we are your co-hosts.
In this show, we're going to dive into all things our lives, from our partnership to romance to entrepreneurship to growing our businesses together, our fitness journeys, and we're going to have a ton of different guests on that relate to what I just said in some way. We're hoping you enjoy the show, and if you do,
please feel free to follow us, leave us a 5-star review on wherever you listen to your podcasts, and enjoy.
And if you don't like the show, tough. Thank you.
Thanks.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the We Get to Do This podcast. I'm also going to intro myself as Jacob with Oak Endurance because I'm going to use everything I talk about here today for a podcast episode and also for my YouTube channel. And we're going to go over a very fun topic, the 7 human movement patterns, which, if you know me, you know I've talked about these things numerous times, and if you're a client of mine, you probably can name all of them by heart at this point. It's something that I was taught 4 or 5 years ago now, and it made sense to me at the time, and I still use it to this day. It comes from Paul Chek. There are other theories. I've heard 5 patterns. I've heard this morning someone said something about 8 patterns. So something I try to remember with these types of concepts is that there's a lot of different ideas, and I don't think anyone is necessarily right or wrong. But if we can all work together towards a common goal with different ideas, we're all trying to get to the same thing, right? So I'm going to come at it from a lens of 7 human movement patterns because, again, that's what I learned and that's what makes sense to me. And I'm excited to do that. So before we get too run specific, I think the best way to understand this is thinking about your daily living. You get out of bed, you walk into the bathroom, you pull a drawer open, start brushing your teeth. Maybe you then go to the bathroom and you squat to go to the bathroom, right? Or you hinge down to grab the toilet seat, move on from the bathroom. Then you go hit up the breakfast tea. It's time for breakfast, right? Open a cabinet, pull a cabinet, reach for something. Maybe push a glass across the table. Maybe reach and grab something in the fridge or on a shelf kind of across from you, right? And then after all that's said and done, you go on with your day and start walking to your next destination. That was like the first 15 minutes of your day. Squat, hinge, rotate, push, pull. You walk to work. I think I missed lunch. Maybe you're going up steps to get to your office, whatever. You get my point with it. You use all of them immediately within that first little section of your day. If you want to think more dynamically about it, think about maybe you got invited to help a friend move. You need to squat or hinge to pick something up, right? You need to walk up steps. Maybe you need to hang something in their apartment and do a step up lunge variation to reach something, right? Push something off of you in a dire situation. Pull someone in a dire situation out of the way of something, right? You get my point. You see these every single day. You're constantly doing different variations of them. They're all extremely important. And that's not even run specific. That's just longevity. That's just durability in everyday life. The more you train these different things, the more likely you are later in life to have that durability, that longevity, or just throughout life. If you want to get even more specific to running, because we talk about running a lot, we can do just that as well. And I think the easiest way to think about this is legs are starting to get fatigued and tired towards the end of a run. Do you want the strength and durability in that run? Maybe you need to do some more squats, lunges, hinges, so you have proper drive through it, so you have proper stability through your hips, so your quads are ready for the constant impact, right? Maybe towards the end of your run, you're starting to lean forward a lot and your core isn't as stable through that constant rotating. Maybe your arm drive, your push, pull, back, all of that isn't working as good as it was. Maybe your gait drills outside of the weight room you haven't been doing, your A skips, B skips, the art of running. So your form starts to fall apart. Or maybe you're an ultra runner. There's a tree down and you need to go and you're running and you need to either hop over the tree, step over the tree again, underneath the tree, squat down, bend at an aid station to fill something up, right? You see these all over the place and you see how they relate. And we're going to get into more and more about how they relate. Again, the 7 human movement patterns. I'm going to start today. If you are not watching either on Spotify or on YouTube, I have a giant whiteboard in front of me right now that's being filmed. I should double check that it's still, everything looks good. Yeah, it does. Okay, so I have a giant whiteboard here that's being filmed. I'll take a picture of this as well and put it in the show notes of both YouTube and this podcast so you can see it. I will also make a blog on all of this too. It's about time I've done that anyways, so I need to do that. So you can see it, but I would recommend, I'm going to do my best, but this is definitely a podcast today where the visual is going to help a lot more. So if you're listening right now on a run or walking on a treadmill or driving in a car or whatever, definitely listen. But this might be one where you want to either go back later and watch or start be able to take notes for as well, okay? I am going to break down first what the 7 human movement patterns are. I just gave specific examples just kind of off the top of my head in that intro about each pattern and how you might see it in daily life. I will do that again as we go through all 7 here. But this first portion is strictly on the 7 human movement patterns. It's not going to be as run specific. So if you are someone who is like, I want to get into the run specific stuff and I want to know why as a runner, I need to train these 7 human movement patterns specifically in the weight room, then I would skip ahead on the podcast. It's probably going to be like 20 minutes from now. Other than that, we're going to get rolling. So 7 human movement patterns. We have squat, we have hinge, we have lunge, we have pull, we have push, we have rotate/twist, and we have gait. I am going to start with squat. Where does squat show up in our everyday life? I used an analogy already, but picking up a couch, using the bathroom, squatting to grab a ball off the ground and throw it to your kid. We squat all the time. Back in the day, and you see it still in gardens and farms and whatnot, people used to just hang out in that squat position and just chill there and pick flowers or pick berries or whatever. We still do it, right? We are constantly squatting. So what kind of cues, how should we be training that squat when we're in the weight room? There are 5. Number 1, your feet are shoulder width. Number 2, your knees track your toes. Number 3, your spine is parallel with your shins. Spine, shins the whole time as you're going up and down. Engage up as you go down. If you've ever done this drill with me, you lay on your back, you're at 90 degrees, and someone pulls on your feet while you slowly let them lengthen it out. You can also just think about, as I'm going down, I'm still thinking about my core is tight and I want to bring my knees, imagine I'm bringing my knees towards the sky even though I'm going down. Knees towards the sky, towards my face, however you want to think about that, okay? And then the last one, spread the floor. All right? So, knees, track toes, feet shoulder width, spine is parallel to my shins, I'm going down, I'm engaging, I'm thinking rip those thighs to the sky as I go up, and I'm spreading the floor the whole time. All right? Just like that. A lot of people, when I watch do this, fall into a few different errors. The first one, knees collapse in, feet collapse in. If you're spreading the floor, neither of those happen. Number 2, the arms fall forward. The spine falls forward. We want to try to avoid those things. All right? That is the type of thing you are training so that in real life, you can do these things and you don't get hurt in real life doing, say, that squat pattern. You get the fundamentals down in a practice setting so you're ready to go. All right, that's a squat. Number 2 is hinge. Hinge is probably the most complicated one of all of these, in my opinion, from teaching and working with different people over the past 5 years now, all right? It's one of the most important. I find every single person that has a back issue, which is like, I think it's like 80% of the world or something crazy like that will have a back issue at some point in their life. Most of those people have issues hinging, bending, right? Picking something down and keeping that back nice and straight, that core engaged, etc. Grabbing the toilet again. I don't know why I keep using bathroom examples, but just what's coming to head, I guess. So the hinge, soft knees, neutral spine. Your hips move back. They're not going down. My hips are moving back. I see a lot of people do this. It's not a squat. Hips go back, okay? My shins, knee to the foot, are vertical, and my lats are on. We'll talk about the lats more when we get to pull. But you can think about deck of cards between your armpit. Squeeze the deck of cards. Lats are on. And then your butt brings you forward, okay? Soft knees, neutral spine. Hips go back, not down. Shins stay vertical. My lats are on. I'm squeezing my butt to come forward. A lot of people like to come forward like this. And they like to arch that low back and like lean their head forward towards the sky. Don't do that. Okay? With the hinge, with the squat, there are a ton of different variations. You might be thinking about like, what about a single leg RDL, right? Single leg hinge. All the rules generally still apply. There are some exceptions. I'm not going to get into the exceptions today. Generally, all of these rules still apply. Okay? That's the hinge. We've covered the squat. Again, if you aren't watching, this might be a lot more confusing to you. So again, I'd recommend watching because I have the cues and the whiteboard right in front of me. And you can also pull up the picture of the whiteboard I have. Number 3, lunge. How to do the lunge most effectively. Before we talk about that, where does the lunge show up in life? I think the easiest way to understand this is steps. We do steps all the time. Going up a curb, right? Needing to kneel down to tie my shoe, right? Things like that. So how do we most effectively do a lunge? Again, there's variations of this. Not discrediting those. But generally speaking, this is the way I want people to think about this. You want to step forward far enough so that when you go down, you can have 90 degrees in the front knee and 90 degrees in the back knee. Okay? From there, I'm thinking rip the floor apart. Similar to the spread the floor on a squat, instead of going out to the side, now I'm going forward and backwards. Rip the floor, okay? Core is braced, and with my core being braced, my torso is straight up and down, / you can think of the front shin and the spine both being vertical or parallel. Down, up, down, up. All right? That's the lunge. You can do both sides. You can do walking lunges, step-ups, split squats, etc. Those are the leg exercises that are in the gym. Gait we'll get to that in a little bit. Now we're going to get into some of the upper body exercises. And we're going to start with pull. I've decided pull is a good place to start, usually before push, because you need to use both push and pull when you do the opposite action. It's whichever Newton law that is. For every reaction, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? So for every time you push, you're also pulling. Every time you pull, you're also pushing, right? I've just learned that it's easier to learn pulling mechanics first so that when I'm cueing pushing stuff and I'm like, don't forget to engage your lat, you understand that, right? So pulling a door open, reaching for a cabinet, pulling that open, grabbing something out of a shelf, pulling someone in for a nice hug. #soft. Things like that, all right? When we pull things in the weight room, bent over row, lat pull down, chin up, pull up, rows, cables, whatever. Shoulders are packed. People love to do this when they're pulling. They love to have their shoulders nice and packed. We're going to have, or nice and elevated. I want them packed. Shoulders down first. From there, you always hear people say, squeeze the shoulder blades. I'm going to argue that. I don't think you should squeeze the shoulder blades. I don't think that's the cue that we want to use. People will end up winging their shoulder blades when you use that cue. I want the shoulder blade to go around the rib cage. So if my rib cage is here and this is the shoulder blade, I want it to rotate and move just around it. I don't want them to go back and protrude out. Hopefully this visual helps. All right, it should glide around that rib cage. So I like to think, actually don't squeeze the shoulder blades. And instead, I like to think about elbows coming to the rib cage. I should have maybe wrote that, but elbows coming to the rib cage. If you're like, well, what about like a one-arm row when you're going past the rib cage? You actually shouldn't be bringing your elbow that far past the rib cage. You actually are rotating through the spine and pushing. You should be when you do those exercises. And when you're doing like a cable row, you only need to come right to that rib cage, maybe a little further, but you shouldn't go super far back with it. You don't need to work the muscles effectively. And in fact, I don't think you should, because you may do something incorrectly on the back end. So keep that in mind. Next, hamstrings and glutes, specifically in bent over row positions. People love to do, say, a bent over dumbbell row, right? Bent over cable row, whatever it is, and round their back or hyperextend their back, right? Your hamstrings and glutes are posterior pulling muscles. They're just on the legs. The pulling is not just upper body. It's just how we a lot of times think about it, okay? So you need to use your hamstrings and glutes as well when you pull things. Hinge, hamstrings, glutes, stretch. Now they're engaged. Now I'm pulling. Don't forget about that. And then lastly, I threw that one in there too because I wanted a fourth thing, and I knew I needed a fourth thing. Lead with your elbows when you pull. Lead with your elbows when you pull. Don't just think about your hands. Pull with your elbows. That is pulling. Now, as we move into pushing a door shut, car door shut, passing a glass of water to a friend, getting into like, sport specific, throwing something, playing with kids, throwing a ball to your kid, right? You're pushing things all the time. Pushing a couch because you dropped a remote through the crack and need to move it now, whatever. You get my point. So always pushing stuff all the time. We're constantly engaging those muscles. When we push, you need to be thinking about engaging your pull muscles, specifically your lat and that shoulders packed portion. I almost put like a little dash for push saying all the pull things and then push. Because so often when people push, they end up not engaging the pulling muscles like your lat and rotator cuff muscles, things like that, and end up with issues because they're not engaging the right muscles, and then they end up doing something incorrectly and hurting an AC joint or something. So make sure you're pulling while you are pushing. And just to reiterate one more time, make sure when you're pulling, you're pushing, right? If I'm pulling something, my chest should be slightly going forward at the end of that motion. If I'm pulling something with one arm, at the end of that motion, my chest should be pushing, right? So don't forget about that with pushing, or with pulling either, and with pushing, vice versa. Now, more specifically with push, I like to think about this as bench press, seated shoulder press, push-ups, those types of motions, and working them. When we do our pushing, glutes are engaged, whether you're on your back on a bench, whether you're standing, whether you're seated. I guess if you're seated, you can't really engage them. But number 2, again, shoulders are down / packed. That gets into the pulling stuff, but just a reminder there. Number 3, rip the bar or spread the floor as you go forward. And number 4, you can think about this as throwing a punch. The technical term is horizontal adduction. Boom, boom. There's that rotation. The arm bone goes inward as you push up or forward. That's push, and that's pull. Number 6, rotate/twist. This one and gait get a little more dynamic now, I would say, in training them and whatnot. With rotating and twisting, getting into bed, rotating, grabbing the sheets, pulling it over you, throwing a baseball works for this one too. Any motion where we're moving from side to side, looking over our shoulder before we cross somewhere, right? At a crosswalk, that type of stuff. That's rotate and twist. You do this all the time. This, being able to rotate and twist your spine and bend your spine, hinge, right, are so good for your back, so good for longevity. This is number 2, I would say, when it comes to like the back side of things. If people also who have issues with hinging, typically they'll have issues with rotating or twisting, or more importantly, not rotating or twisting, the anti-rotation portion of it. So that's how I like to think of from here. When we are rotating, we're thinking move from the core. Okay, your core being what we think about a lot of time, our abs, right? But glutes as well. And thinking that motion, I always say, if I'm going to throw a punch at you right in that belly, you're bracing for impact, right? Your abs are not just the six-pack, right? TVA, deep internal muscles. I've talked about these before. Keep those engaged as well. Glutes, all of your core, right? Even your shoulders being packed here, right? Your lat is part of your core. Everything that basically is not your arm or knee down should be engaged, including your cervical muscles. Do not bend. We're not rotating like this, right? We're not doing this type of thing. We rotate from the core. Don't bend. I skipped over long neutral stacked spine, but I kind of said that. Long neutral stacked spine. And then remember, anti-rotation is also rotation. And sometimes it's almost more important to train that part, with running specifically, which we'll get into. Those are the main 6 patterns. The last one, and this is a nice little segue to the running side of things, is our gait pattern. So that's how we move from point A to point B. Number 7, gait pattern, locomotion, moving from point A to point B. I always describe this as crawling, although crawling includes twisting and the lunge and the push pattern and kind of everything, but gait pattern in general almost combines all of this. I just usually tell people gait pattern is the more dynamic version of our lives. It's how we move around through space and time, right? Some people argue that carry is a pattern. Maybe that's the 8th one, but I think carry is a part of gait, how you carry yourself through time and space, right? So that's why I say this for last. It's the most complex one. It's the most dynamic one. It includes pretty much all the other things in some fashion. When we are moving, your posture is tall and your eyes are forward. Notice how I said tall. So if you are walking, you may be pretty upright, but if you're running, you might have a slight lean. That doesn't mean, or you should have a slight lean, roughly 5 to 10%, but it doesn't mean that you're not still tall. That lean is throughout the whole body. Specifically, it's at an ankle hinge, different conversation, but you're staying tall. Your eyes are forward on the horizon. Your core is nice and braced. You are doing what is called contralateral reciprocation. You can think of that as coordination, kind of. Anytime one leg steps forward, the opposite shoulder/arm should step forward. Boom, boom. This is the gait pattern. One foot steps forward, opposite shoulder, opposite shoulder. It should mimic that. Cross body. If you've worked with me before, I've talked about that X a lot in the back. That's what that is referring to there. Your foot is landing under your hips. I already went over the carry thing, but carry is a form of gait, I think. So if you do like an exercise where you're holding 2 weights and you're carrying them, you're still following all of those principles. You get into some anti-rotation stuff with that too. It's great. Your arms, if you're walking, you're probably going to have them at your side. If you're running, you should be at 90 degrees. You're probably not going to walk like this. Might look a little weird, not be super economical / efficient. And then lastly, I like to tell people to think about their glutes and big toe when they're extending. You can also argue people need to think about pulling the toes up when they're lengthening or stepping forward, right? So big toes up, then glute, push through the big toe as I push back. Get good extension, right? As you walk or run. That is your gait. Doing great on time, 25 minutes. So, past Jacob said that you should skip ahead. This would be the point in which you should skip ahead right here. We just went over squat, hinge, lunge, pull, push, rotate, twist, and gait. Briefly went over how to train all of them and how they relate to your everyday life. Now, we're going to get a little more specific to running. And maybe it would have made sense to use that example in the beginning of trail running and power towards the end of the race now to kind of re-rope you back in. But here's the thing. This should get your attention. If you're a runner and you care about running and want to run for a long time, you need to pay attention to this stuff. It's kind of like strength training in a way, but I'm going to get a little bit more specific to why these movement patterns matter and relate to running. If you are listening right now and you don't care about running for a long time, or maybe you're like, I want to see how good I can be for the next 3 years, and then after that, whatever. Cool. If that's the case for you, then you still need to listen to this, because if you want to be good or better, these things are going to help you. If you want to have longevity and be durable, these things are going to help you. If you want to just have a better time with running in general, these things are going to help you, okay? So big picture, runners, why should you care about these 7 human movement patterns? And why do I train runners specifically from a standpoint of athlete first? Athlete first, human athlete first. I train the 7 movement patterns. Can you master those things before you even really specialize in, I guess you could call it gait, but running. Running is all of these things. Gait is a form that kind of combines all of these, right? But running 1000% combines all of these. Big picture. Like I just kind of said, I guess. Running isn't just your gait. Gait is a part of your running, 1000%. Running is a form of gait, 1000%. However, if you only do gait pattern things, thinking A skips, B skips, bounding, drills, crawling, body, it's all body weight basically. Even if you put a vest on and went and hiked at a ski hill, you could get stronger, but you're probably not going to get strong enough, in my opinion. You're going to need to do other things in the weight room. And more importantly, you're going to need to move through other ranges of motion so that when the time comes, you have those in your back pocket and you can use them. It's not just gait. Running is not just gait. Your ability to squat builds powerful quads. So every time you land, right, you have the power and strength there. We'll get into that more in a little bit. But running isn't just gait. If you're a runner listening right now, these are the 4 things of this whole entire podcast of why you should pay attention to the 7 movement patterns. So tune in. Running isn't just gait. Number 2, why should you care about the 7 movement patterns? So my question is for you. Do you want to run more? I have seen it over and over again. Runner gets injured and they are broken down. They just lost something that's very near and dear to their heart. And I get it. It's hard to lose that. It's very, very hard to lose that. If you want to run more, that starts with being more efficient and more durable. How do you become more efficient and more durable? Become a better athlete. Don't just run. Become a better athlete. How do we become a better athlete? The basics, more specifically, these 7 human movement patterns. Train them all. Be comfortable in all of the positions. Be able to move your body and your joints through all of the ranges of motion. Number 3, on why you should care about the 7 movement patterns. If you raise your athletic floor, this gets into this a little bit too, but if you raise your athletic floor, if you train like an athlete first, and raise that floor so you can handle more in the weight room, more running, more range of motion, positions, flexibility, mobility, all of those buzzwords. More, you can just handle more. Everything goes up. Everything. If your overall floor goes up, that pillar that is running goes up. And now it's easier to run at the level that you were at. As opposed to if you just run and that athletic floor slowly goes down, you're only going to be as strong as that weakest link. So at some point you will break / maybe get injured, maybe not get any faster, maybe not be able to handle any more miles, maybe not be able to run as far, as long, as many years, things like that. Number 4, why you should care about the 7 human movement patterns as a runner. I have a friend who has a coach that they were telling me about, and their coach was talking about how as a runner, it's not super important to be able to lift more than, say, your body weight and move in positions that aren't specific to running. If you want to become good at running, you need to run and just spend a lot of time running. There is some truth to that statement. If you want to become good at anything, you do need to specialize at a point. But only being specific at one thing, eventually, going back to that athletic floor, causes you to lose out on other areas, which will then drag you down. It's a great way to think about it. In addition to that, if we take a step back from running, what kind of life message are we sending when we know strength training, ranges of motion, flexibility, all of those things, squatting, hinging, lunging, pulling, pushing, rotating, these movement patterns that we do every single day, if we don't ever train them and get comfortable with them, and we only ever run, what kind of life is that you're living? Specifically when you are 50, 60, 70, for longevity. Not staying well-rounded can and will most likely cause issues later in life. You are sacrificing future years off of not only your running career, but time with grandkids, ability to walk. Maybe you get injured from falling and something breaks, bouncing back from that, stuff like that. Life longevity, arguably the most important one on that big picture. Why you should care about the 7 human movement patterns. If that still isn't enough, the last portion of this podcast and YouTube video, by pattern. How does each pattern, Jacob, relate to running specifically? So this big picture was like, big picture. If I'm training these, what gets better? All of this gets better, right? But now, specific to running, or specific to the running pattern and different things that are happening as you go through your gait, how does, say, squatting in the weight room help me become a better runner performance-wise out there or keep me away from injuries? So this is a nice little picture. I'm going to put this on Instagram too because I really like it. So squats are going to mainly, back up one sec, sorry. When we do all of these patterns here, again, there's a nuance to all of it. Like hinging doesn't just help your push off. Being able to hinge is going to help your low back in running as well. It's going to protect it, right? But I put kind of the more important things, the big hitters that I want people to remember. And then again, like lunge, single leg hip and control. Obviously that's important with lunging because it's a single leg movement, but a single leg RDL is also very important for single leg hip and control. So before you like judge me, yes, there's nuance and whatever, but it's specific here so you can just kind of understand the thought process of how each movement pattern relates to specifically running. Okay, so squat, number 1, landing, power, overall strength. It's just a phenomenal exercise to increase our overall strength and durability as runners, but specifically every time you land, boom, Force goes up the chain, specifically into your quads. You're training the heck out of your quads when you do squats. Okay? Hinging, posterior chain muscles, kind of the opposite of that squat. Push-off muscles. That's what the hinge is for. Pull, push. Pull, push. Okay? Number 3, lunge. Like I said, this is the single leg and hip control movements. Every time we run, our hips drop. Okay? They're supposed to a little bit, but how much do you want them to drop, right? So being able to control that single leg and hip is very, very, very important. Balancing on one leg, but lunge movements, okay? Number 4, pulling. Posture, arm drive backwards. Tons of people have come to me over the years and been like, every time I do a long run, right here gets really sore towards the end and achy, and I start leaning forward. The pulling work in the gym helps pull you out of that. It's good for your posture. And then in addition, it gives you a stronger arm drive back. Stronger arm drive back, stronger muscles in general, the easier it is to run. Easier it is to run, the more you can run, the better you get at running, etc. Push, posture, again, similar to the pull, posture here now, and then arm drive forward. Rotate, core stability. I like to think about rotating being very, 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 very beneficial for those that have back issues while running. So this is where anti-rotation comes in, really importantly, training that specific stuff. So stability there. It's also control in the hips like this, Shakira, hip swing, okay? And then arm and leg coordination. That's kind of like that contralateral reciprocation. It gets into the gait here a little bit, but being able to, again, rotate through that. Or control rotate, so you don't excessively rotate too far. All right. And then lastly, gait. Again, if you have questions on this, reach out because it can be a little confusing. These 6 are more static, might be a good way to think about it. In motion, they typically happen, and then you would move and do the next thing, right? Whereas the gait is actually how you move from A to B. Gait, this is kind of out of order, but coordination, economy, run economy, and durability as a runner. So, yes, I say you shouldn't just run all the time, and you shouldn't, but this is where like being a better runner involves running more, but more importantly, as a runner, we still need to do our drills. Think about basketball players. They shoot free throws all the time. Don't forget to practice running. You can't just run all the time. You need to practice running. Wall drills, skipping, high knees, all that stuff. Don't be too good for the basics. You don't have to get that fancy. There's a lot of power in just a single leg march and working on getting the knee up. Again, that gets into that range of motion stuff, right? That is gait, and that's the 7th and how it relates to the pattern, or how that pattern relates to running. We covered a lot today. Hopefully, I kept it fairly digestible. I would love feedback on this one because I've never really done anything like this. So hopefully you learned something and I made it somewhat sensible, if that's the right word. Kaylee would be upset if I didn't do a we get to do this moment. So I'm thinking on my feet a little bit here for my we get to do this moment. And I think my we get to do this moment this week is how special it is and how special I believe, or like I feel, knowing I get to have a partner like Kaylee, and how rare and unique it is that I have someone who believes and supports me as much as she does. There really isn't anyone, and I'm not saying people haven't cared about me or supported me like family and whatnot. Obviously they have, but like unconditionally, Kaylee supports me so much and lets me do things like this and lets me test ideas and gives me feedback and supports and supports and supports. And she makes me want to support her more every single day. And I'm just so lucky I get to do this podcast with her. I'm so lucky I get to do life with her. I'm so lucky I get to be with her all the time. I love it. I love her. My we get to do this moment is having Kaylee in my life always. So thank you, Kaylee, for putting up with me. 7 human movement patterns. Like I said, there will be a blog likely that goes along with this. There will be this 2 pictures of all of this that goes along with it. I may make some more digestible charts. Potentially, we'll find out. That will all be in the show notes, whether you're watching on YouTube or the podcast. Thanks for listening today, y'all. Hope you got something out of this, and I hope you care more about the 7 human movement patterns and understand what they are and what I mean when I refer to them. If you have any questions on any of this, go ahead and reach out. And if you have any questions about the pod, reach out as well. If you liked the episode, please leave a review, subscribe, follow. We really appreciate it. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. We get to do this another episode. Bye, y'all. Wow, Kaylee, we made it through another episode. What do you think?
We would love if you would go give us a follow, a 5-star review, and comment on the episode and what you liked and what you'd like to see more of.
See you next time.
We get to do this.